time. Last year, around 2 million potholes were reported to councils in England and Wales, and it's a problem they are warning will get worse.
Yes, widespread flooding last year, coupled with a cold start to this year, means road services are expected to deteriorate even further. So what is being done to fix the problem? Our reporter Bryony McKenzie is at a garage in Manchester to investigate. Morning, Bryony.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Susanna. Yes, this is where it's hitting us hardest, underneath our cars and also in our pockets. £21 million was paid out in compensation to people who had been damaged by potholes, their cars, their bikes, their motorbikes. But that's 300 or so claims per council per year. Certainly this time of year, a freezing February, potholes are just a problem for everyone.
A smooth, calm and comforting start to the day.
Good morning, this is Today with Sarah Montague and John Humphreys.
Ideal really, but perhaps your morning journey feels more like this. And it could be because you've hit one of the 2 million potholes reported in the past year across England and Wales.
But it's not just a problem for drivers, but all the councils that are in charge of fixing them as well.
Staffordshire County Council knows all about it. After the wettest winter on record last year, they're filling 50% more potholes this year, and with that pouring an extra £500,000 into the perennial problem.
Bottom line, it's money. If you haven't invested in highway maintenance 10, 20 years ago, the pothole we have behind us was probably formed 15 years ago because of a budget cut at the time. I decided to save money. It didn't matter then, it didn't look like it mattered, but underneath the road was crumbling away. And the great analogy is the window frame. If you don't paint your window frames, they fall out and you cost you more to replace in the long run. And that's what's happening with our highway networks.
According to an industry body survey, on average it costs around £55 to fill a pothole in England, and it's slightly cheaper in Wales at around £35. But it's 20 times more expensive to fill a pothole than to maintain roads by regular resurfacing.
We see the cold mix one is quite heavily rotted.
Yeah, definitely.
But is what we're using up to the job? These civil engineers in Nottingham are leading the field in finding an economic and practical solution.
If you allow materials which might be very nice to drive on in good conditions, but are full of holes, because that's what makes them nice to drive on, then that gives you a longer term problem. If you do something much denser, it will last longer, but it'll be a pain to drive on, and you get spray problems and that sort of thing. So it's a difficult question.
The government has put up an extra £415 million for road repairs since 2011, in addition to the £3 billion road maintenance budget. But there are those who say that's still not enough.
It's really Alice in Wonderland to say that the £3 billion is going to deal with what's a serious problem. It masks a 19% cut in our funding, so we can only do so much with the money that's been made available, and it's a cut.
Filling potholes, not an impossible thing before breakfast. The answer to the problem, well, perhaps that is becoming curiouser and curiouser.
Well, here at this garage in Manchester, they've put the car up for us so we can see underneath really what happens when you do hit a pothole. And John Caveney's going to show us kind of where the pressure points are really. What are we looking at here, John?
This is a bottom wishbone, and if this snaps, then the car's going nowhere. It's quite an unpleasant thing to happen, that.
And it's not the depth of the pothole necessarily, but the speed at which you go over, is that right?
The actual impact speed, the force of the impact, yes.
And
so
that can shatter that entirely,
yes,
and then
indeed.
the car is...
Then the car's going nowhere, you need to get it towed in then.
OK, thanks very much, John. Well, at this garage in Manchester, they've seen a huge rise in the number of repairs that they've had to do just this winter alone. That's one of the tyres here. It's just an example of something that can happen that's buckled under a pothole. Amanda, you own the garage. I mean, what can motorists do when they come in? Is it simply a case of the insurance aren't going to pay for it, they've got to pay for it themselves?
Well, it's hard to prove the liability, really, which pothole did the damage. Unless a pothole does stop your car dead and your car's stuck there, then obviously that's easier. But most of it is at the person's expense themselves. So it's hitting all of us in our pocket, and we're paying road tax anyway, but we're still paying for damage to the cars.
We've got some parts here. I mean, what are we looking at here, and how much is that going to cost? Because they're heavy, aren't they? They're not just sort of cheap bits that are easily replaced.
No, they are. They're heavy and they're necessary for the smooth running of your vehicle. We've got springs from £30 upwards for the parts without the labour. We've got suspension legs here, upwards of £75. Wishbones down here. They're all big jobs, and say it's all at our expense. There's nobody to pay for it for us. Yeah, I
mean, from a garage point of view, it's actually probably not a bad picture for business, but obviously for motorists, which we all are, and cyclists and those who use motorbikes, it has been a particularly harsh winter. The local government associations say they need £9.8 billion, is what they estimate, to resurface our entire network of roads. But at the moment, they're just doing a patch and repair system, and currently they say they estimate it's going to be one pothole is being repaired every 16 seconds. Back to you.
Bryony, thank you very much.
The actor Mark Benton is